said to you, young man, here is a job for you. And this was published in the Gleaner as an advert sent from the War Office to the Gleaner to be published. I'll just give you a few lines what it said here. Yes, we have a job for you. This is the opportunity for you to help the war effort. You'll be trained by experts in any form of categories listed below. There was a list of different type of, what I should say, trades and different functions that we had to adhere to. And it goes on, elongated publicity of us joining up. But I'll give you a few things which we were involved with. There were clerks, equipment officers, motor mechanics, fabric makers, motorcyclists, finishers, drivers, wireless technicians, teleprinters operators, and radio operators. And these are the different type of work that we had to do as recruits in those days. Now, coming on to that part of bringing up this subject of what we had to do, we were drafted in a place called Palisados in Kingston, Jamaica. We had to remain there for at least 3 months. While we were there, we had to do a lot of physical training, awaiting a ship to take us across the Atlantic. Surprisingly enough, the U-boats and submarines, which was parading up and down the Atlantic Ocean, kept us back from traveling immediately to England. Unfortunately, we had to spend about 2 months, 3 months before we could travel. But anyway, the first set of ground crew I'm speaking about that traveled here was 2,000. We came up and landed at a place called Liverpool. Our first landing, by the way, was in America. We had to be in a camp called Fort Patrick Henry, which was really a camp for transition of different forces. We spent about another week there, and then we came on to England, and then we were down at Liverpool. That was the first convoy of air crew, of air ground crew. We had a convoy of air crew, which came separately from the ground crew. Now, we landed at a place called Liverpool. Of course, you hear about Liverpool and you know Liverpool. But when we landed there, we had no idea that, these places were, with chimneys, different kinds of everything. And we looked up and said, well, there's a house on fire there. It was very strange, of course. But anyway, we got to find out that there was, this was a chimney from a hole, heating up the oil. Right, now, we had to leave that area, and we had to go in for physical and ammunition training. And therefore, we had to end up in a place in Yorkshire called Butlin's Camp. Anybody hear of Butlin's Camp? Yes. Mr. Butlin, who owned that land, gave it to the War Office for training West Indians who came out. And therefore, this is where we started the term called square bashing. You had to know about the different type of arguments, different way of counteracting yourself in combat and things like that. I myself, I was very afraid of certain mechanical instruments. And when our trainee put a grenade in my hand, says, now you've got to do this and do that, I was very, very well myself, what I should say, nerve-wracking at the time, because I've never handled anything like that before, and so many of us, because we were all in the age of 17 to 21, 22, and in the West Indies, of course, You know, we hardly have the experience of seeing ammunition like this. Now, another point which was quite interesting was that while we were awaiting to travel to England, we had a batch of other West Indian islands came along. We had Barbados, you had Grenada, Trinidad, you name them. And they all had to come to Jamaica for moving across from the harbour to England. And this was a novelty to us because nobody has told us about our neighbouring islands, that they were, you know, part of the British Empire as well. In school sometimes you never even hear anything about the other islands. All you hear about is England and the European countries, you know. So that was a novelty to most of us. Anyway, coming back home to our journey, it was quite I would say, a nerve-wracking journey coming across this country, because we had officers who had to be on lookout for any dangerous U-boats coming across or things like that. And that was something that most of us were afraid of. Now, this is the first part of what I'm trying to point out to you, which I came here, and others like myself, we experiencing sort of travel there. But what surprised us most of all, most of the average person in the street didn't know anything about the West Indian Islands. When we came to talk to certain people, said, where are you from? And we had the English uniform, of course, with our insignia. And they were surprised. They've seen us in the Royal Air Force uniform. Because everyone thought about you being part of the British Empire. And therefore, I mean, at that point, I mean, a lot of us were really disappointed to know that we are just second-class citizens to Britain. And therefore, you know, there was a number of upsets in certain camps, which lead to a lot of disturbance. However, we're saying that we puddled along, we got into certain areas of our business. I myself, after my square bashing, we had to go to different camps to fulfill what duty you have to perform. I myself, I took up teleprinter operator, and I was posted at a station where I had to deal with certain signals. This is a position where it's something to do, I don't know, come back to you remember the Morse code? This was really aborted by the War Office, and they said the enemy is picking up the Morse code, so we have to have landmines. And they negotiated with the Post Office to build landmines to get to different areas of combat. And this is where the teleprinter came into action. I was stationed in the headquarters, and this area was out of bounds to all personnel other than the operational services. Because in the basement of this headquarters, this is where the air crew operates from, with all the different signals and the different type of area of combat. And this was put out of bounds, as I said, to the average layman, or the average serviceman at that time. Now, after serving about 3 months in a certain station there, I was posted to another station. On my travel on this train, I was quite comfortable, sitting down, and there was a lovely young lady in front of me, well dressed, well spoken. She looked around and she saw my insignia, Jamaica. And suddenly she turned up to me and said, what part of Africa is Jamaica? So this is just to show you these people were not aware of any part of the West Indies at all. Only the intellectual, or what I would say, the people who have got certain amount of affluence, who have traveled the world and things like that. But the average person, our experience, have found out that they were ignorant to the fact that there were people in the Caribbean were part of the British Empire. So this is my experience coming across. Now, now after being there for a certain time, I myself wanted was to continue my training. And fortunately, the aircrew, the War Office, offered those men and women who were training or who were in college, they could make application to continue their courses. So many of us did that. And of course, I did that myself. And I was sent to Leeds College of Technology to finish my course. After that, I said, well, I'll stay on in England for a little while and see what the situation is. And this is where you find there was a catch-22 to get a job. Now, I had to look around now to get a job. And this was really about there for me. Because you go to the firm and they said, well, you've got to have a card from your union. I said, well, I'm not a member of the union. I said, I just came out from the Air Force. I said, well, you still have to have a card. I said, you can't be employed here, you don't have a card, the union. Okay, that was accepted. So, through perseverance, I said, well, I must continue to try and get some further experience. And I wrote to a few national newspapers, and there was no response. But I still continued. Determination, regardless of anything. Because you will find that anywhere you go in this country, there's always somebody trying to distract you from your own intentions. But you have got to have that real power. And this is what I did. And eventually, cut my story short, I did end up getting a position in a national newspaper. And that was very, very satisfying, and I was so pleased. Now, I'll tell you something about, after a certain time, there were a number of us here in this country who were ex-nationals. We decided to form a West Indian ex-servicemen and women association. And this was formed in about late 60s. We had nowhere to go, so we had to have it in different homes and things like that, where we could meet and discuss our projects. So eventually, over the years, we managed to get a place in Lambeth. And then the West Indian Ex-Servicemen Women Association was then functioning. And we are still functioning today. And this audience here, I would like you to know, but I mean, wherever you go and wherever you are, you can always come to us, because we are doing a lot of projects for anyone, the community and anyone at home. We are based in Clapham Manor Street. And please, Mr. Warner can give you details of us, or if you want any details from me, you can get it off and finish. And thank you very much. And may I say thanks for listening, and give Mr. Warner again another big hand for him. So you didn't miss it, well, this is not a case of not missing the family. It was a case of doing something that you feel like wanting to be done. You know, your thoughts and your mind is still there. Inwardly, you know, you can't see what's in it, but it's there still. Yes. Great. So, in future, you could see some success from that.
Lady in the green, Yvonne?
Thanks for coming, and it's a privilege to hear you speak to us today. I wondered, my dad spoke to me about square bashing. In those days they only had 12 weeks of square bashing. 12 weeks was all that they thought was necessary to prepare you to learn how to kill somebody and learn how to be killed. So I'm really interested in hearing how you felt with that grenade in your hand. My dad also mentioned something about people disappearing, and it was known. It wasn't said openly, but it was known that they committed suicide. Some of the lads just couldn't do it. And they committed suicide during those 12 weeks. People just disappeared. What was your experience of square? Can you give us a bit more about your square bashing experiences? I'm very interested to know.
Yes, well, when you go for a square bashing, it's to do with the whole body of men. We have different, what I should say, squadrons, you have different wings, you have different area of training at different times. But you have to be prepared to have these training because the enemy has you've got to approach the enemy in certain times, in certain areas. So these training are essential, regardless of what you speak about doing it or whatever. Because speaking on a point of training, it's something that, I mean, once you join up in the Army, Air Force or Navy, these policies are there for you before you even go on the square bashing. As soon as you enter any part of the forces. So therefore, you can't avoid it. But I myself know, as I said before, within me, I was trying to be a type of person who want to have peace and have tranquility amongst the race.
And I'd also like to ask you, how old are you? It's on my mind, because you look wonderful, you look really grateful for what you are.
No, that's really a question I wouldn't like to answer straightforward. I would have to speak with my children and my grandchildren on this type of knowledge, because I myself is not fit to go anywhere near or anything like that. But
I don't mean now. I mean if you had to go back into those days. You know what I mean?
I want to go back.
Yeah, not now. I don't mean you as a person now. I mean,
yes.
would you have gone voluntary again?
In your life, would you do the same?
The same again.
Yes, of course. Because as I said, it was an adventure and quite an experience for me. And many of us had that experience because we had the opportunity of meeting different types of people. We had the opportunity of having different types of environment for discussion and to know certain things about certain part of the world.
All right, Charlie, you had your hand up. Oh, age.
Somebody asking how old I am. I leave it to guess.
Yet, not a lot of us went back to sort of redevelop it again. Do you have any regrets at this point? Because I'm sure if you ask some of the people in your generation, you didn't really have to come to England. Some of us, standard of living was much higher. We didn't have to go through the racism, but looking back at it, didn't you think, what would have happened to your life? You have a vision, anything really happened like if you'd never come to England, and would the Caribbean be a better place now because we didn't leave that gap in between where the skilled people should have stayed and teach other skilled people. What we become now is a tourist industry and we haven't advanced. A lot of us would like to go back and we can't go back because we live in this fear. Didn't you think it was based on to your generation who left in large numbers to come? Did you, nobody forced you to come?
Charlie, I know you very well from years gone by.
Yes.
And I think your elongated question I must say, one part of the question I will answer is that I find it very, very interesting when I came to this country to find out certain things, whether it was good, bad or indifferent. But as I said before, you have got to counteract the bad things. And anyone traveling anywhere at all, you come up against certain insignificancy anywhere you go in the part of the world, especially when you have this pigment. So therefore, as I said before, counteract all these areas. Do it with your spirit and your mind, and you'll get fulfillment.
All right, got time for one more question. Pink shirt lady. Pink shirt lady.
Oh, me?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. I just wanted to ask you, when you came back from the war, when you left the service, how did the black community at that time treat you? you know, a lot of the white soldiers coming back, or the white servicemen coming back, giving a welcome, were very welcome. I mean, now servicemen aren't particularly welcome, but what was this? How were you treated in the black community? Because as older black people tend to be, I find, you don't tend to blow your own horns, which is why, as younger people, we're not aware of the things that you've done. So I think I just wanted to know, how did they treat you, or were you applauded? How did they feel?
Well, you mean when we were demanded in this country or back in Ireland?
Well, you didn't go home, so to the people here.
Well, there are many of us didn't go back straight home after the war. And I was one also, as I said to you. I went in a course after. And I spent quite a bit of time before I even went back to visit Jamaica, where I'm from. But there are people who you can meet who are, what I should say, civil. There are people who you can meet who are negative in their thoughts. Some are dogmatic. But as I say, you can use your own discretion, and I felt that I would use my own strategy to get over any embarrassment. And what I'm trying to tell you all, you can also use a strategy to overcome any system that you face which is not satisfied to you. So this is how I operate in my own way. My spirits, my thoughts, my guidance is in here.